Hi, everybody. Hope you're doing well. My name, as always, is Emmanuel Clement, and we're here talking through another quick sketch page. Shorter one, as you can see, just 4 bars here, with a bit of a spooky atmosphere. Gonna talk you through the layers, and we're all gonna explore and learn something together. I'm looking down a lot because I've got a beautiful kitty named Chopin on my lap, and hopefully he won't interrupt us too much. But if he does, say hi. Okay. Without further ado, let's just listen to what this sounds like. And remember, as always, you don't have to notice everything. You don't have to understand everything that you hear. Whatever you do notice, let your curiosity take you deeper into it. And hopefully I'll be a good guide for you along the way. So let's listen. Yes, spooky. Um, I noticed that, I explicitly went for a spooky atmosphere and not a sense of some sort of scary threat, right? And I did that by making sure that the timbre of our main sound was still quite soft in the 3 flutes and the clarinets up top. I had a version of this on paper that also included some violins as resonators behind, and it was just a little too piercing. It wasn't atmospheric anymore. So the soft quality of the winds as the main line with just a little bit of viola support in the octave below is giving our main sound that sense of atmosphere, I think, rather than a particular person or object, a focal point of spookiness or threat. I went ahead and prepared a couple filters ahead of time. So as always, I want to sort of look at in order, right? The main line, then the main sound, like all of the instruments that are contributing to the enrichment of the main line, then the supporting elements and special effects. So first, we've got the main line itself. We just have flute 1 and viola articulating it throughout. And notice that I have the viola section layered dynamically, one tick below the 3 flutes, just to make sure that they don't. I want the flutes to be the focal point, right? I want the flute section to be what we hear the most, and the viola to just give the flutes, which are kind of low in their register, giving it this throaty kind of howling wind in a cave sort of sound. In that register, the flutes do need a little bit more body and support from another instrument most of the time, and I'm trying to use the viola section to do that here. But at the same time, I don't want it to feel like violas with a little flute coloring, right? I want it to feel like flutes with a little viola coloring. Anything else to talk about here? In terms of motivic design, not something we've discussed a lot yet, but something that I'm thinking about very, very deeply lately. We have this sort of like neighbor, neighbor, leap up, surprise, leap. Sort of a this leap is kind of like an inversion of this one, right? We get big leap up and then big leap down. And then in the 2 halves of the phrase, right, we take this as an entire unit. You can sort of see that that whole unit is being presented again. This time we've got the same neighbor, and then a smaller leap and a rest, right? So taken as an entire melodic body in two halves. We have this first half, which has a big leap and is startled, and then the second half, which is you can still hear that a leap is present. It's smaller and more reserved. We've sort of returned to level. That's about it, I think, as far as what this tune is doing under the hood. So let's move on to how it is filled out. And this is where some of the fun stuff begins. So let's listen to this tune now with everyone on it. Okay, good. So notice how for most of the time we don't have all of our wind players playing. The one significant moment where all of our wind players are in is going to be cha-ching right here, this big crescendo leading up to the spooky scary forte piano I have marked here, and that spooky G flat coloring note, big change of harmony, right? I'm trying to sell this moment on multiple layers. This is something that I'm thinking about a lot in my sketch pages. You think sometimes we think of the term redundancy as meaning overly repetitive, right? It has a negative connotation, but there's this idea of redundancy in think about oh heck, I can't come up with an example now, but as a term in like technology and troubleshooting, right? Redundancy means if one thing fails, another is there to pick up the slack. And in terms of musical design, I'm thinking I want this spooky moment to really, really land. And so I'm going to write in that spookiness melodically with the use of this new color tone. I'm using the harmony to articulate that moment with the change from C minor to E flat minor. I'm using the dynamics to do so, right? Because we have a crescendo and then the forte piano. I'm using articulation to mark that moment with the accent. I'm using the instrumentation itself to mark this moment by having more and more players added, right? Until the fullest moment of the melody is on that moment. And I'm using some special effects to sell that moment as well, which we'll get into on the ensemble level a little bit more as we continue. But just here in the flutes, notice I have a little bit of these trills that I'm very, very proud of. Let's go ahead and filter to just our flute friends real quick. And this is getting a little bit cluttered, unfortunately, but we'll manage. Let's listen to just the flute section. So talking about special effects, we got some trillies. We got some trills here, which I think just really work great. These are both whole step trills. So this E flat is trilling up to F, and this B flat is trilling up to the C natural. Here I have marked for flute 2 to trill the E flat and then not this G flat, and then flute 3 below it continues trilling on this E flat to F. And if you think about the resulting cloud of notes that we're going to be hearing, the entire harmony, we will hear for this beat a B flat, an E flat, a G flat. Those are the main notes of our E flat minor triad harmony. We're also going to hear a C and an F because of the trills. And so the resulting cloud is sort of, an E flat, minor, add 9, add a 6, or you could think of it as like a C half diminished chord with the F added. However, it's a nice, whatever it is, it's a nice little cloud of notes. And I like the C natural in there because it takes us, like it's retained from the C minor tonality we just came from. So it sounds like the C minor's 5 got flattened to the G flat. There's a sense of continuity there. Yeah, these trills as an effect really sell the like windy and shaky anxiety of this moment, and I think it's really, really nice. And you know, I have no idea if this is the right way to go about it, but I like I said, I have one trilling only this note and then stopping, and then so for the rest of the bar, just this note gets the trill. And so there's this, even within the special effect, there's a little bit of a diminuendo happening here, where there's a moment where both players beneath are trilling, and then a moment where only one is trilling. It sort of settles back down just within the trills themselves. I thought it would be cool to try, and I like the resulting effect. And that's all you need, baby. Have fun with it. You gotta have fun with it. I'm still trying to have fun with it in my own life more often. Okay, that's pretty much it, I think, for the flutes. They're filling out the harmony. So talking about thickness, right? Our main line in the flutes and in the winds as a whole. Let's go back to everybody playing this. Yeah, that's good. We've got 3 players here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players here. Then all 6 players for this moment. Then over here, we're back to 3. Little bit of 4 players to close out. So the thickness of the main line, the main sound, just in terms of number of players, is fluctuating over time, along with the shape of the line, how I feel like the line should be shaped, and the harmonic thickness as well, right? So we start off on a unison C, and then we've got 2 notes, right? This little duet thing. Then here, still 2 notes, but it jumps up into all 3 of the triad, and then the big moment here where we've got a G flat on top, E flat, B flat, B flat, lower G flat, lower G flat. The tallest chord in terms of just number of notes stacked on top of each other, again, is on this spooky moment. Yep, pretty much it. Let's move on then to our supporting effects. The main accompanimental rhythm is going to be this right here. And I think if you remember last time, we talked a little bit about parallel fifths. We got some really obvious ones right here. And that is totally fine to me here because, like we talked about last video, this cello divisi is not supposed to be felt as independent voices. It's supposed to be heard as a unit. And the more that unit is sort of fused together and made less interesting, for lack of a better term, the more it fades into the background of the overall sound of this piece, and that is the point. this layer should not be felt as really important and foreground. It needs to be designed to be a little bit less interesting to the ear, less surprising to the ear, shall we say, so that all of the focus is retained on that flute layer, on that forward layer. Something to think about in your own work. So these parallels are fine. Articulating, we've got C minor, E flat minor, C minor, B flat minor, C minor. A little bit of a Phrygian sound, I think. Right, C minor with a D flat in it. And the Phrygian, becomes Locrian here for a second with that E flat minor, if we're thinking about this all in terms of C. So again, we're modulating lightness and darkness in our modality as we go through this piece as well, right? There are so many so many layers to consider in everything that you write. And I'm getting off topic. Let's just talk about what's happening texturally here. So the double bass, which I would like to call the contrabass permanently, but Dorico defaults to double bass, and I haven't bothered to change it yet. Double bass is here to give some body to this moment here. Again, the biggest, spookiest moment, and to the ending to help it feel conclusive. And nowhere else, right? To help it stand out. I could have it maybe play some pizzicatos to support the flutes above it. Maybe if that were an issue in rehearsal, that could be something to consider. But this was just a quick and dirty sketch page that I whipped out on paper in a few minutes. So what are you going to do? And voicing wise, so the celli, or cellos, however you want to say it, they're in these nice open fifths and sixths. And then we've got the trombone layer in between them. This E flat is the one that sits in between the cello throughout. It's articulating the third of the C minor here, the third of the B flat minor here, the third of the C minor here. Because I did want the full triads in the accompaniment throughout to give as much contextual support to the flutes as possible. But I didn't want this to be the higher E flat, if we unfilter for a moment, because it would start to bump up against some of the wind voices. And even though that would hopefully sit behind them in the texture, I really wanted lots of sonic space for the winds up top. And not to interfere with them at all. So my voicing solution, right, was to have a mixed timbre where one section has really clear and open intervals, and then a different timbre is filling them in. So there's a little less potential for muddiness by having the whole section play all three voices of that chord. I wrote trombone at the time just because I thought that I might add a little horn statement going in here, something kind of like and I ended up going against it. Another instrument that might work well here is the bassoon. For more winds, the bassoon in the middle of the cellos would probably be perfectly nice also. The only other special effect here is the timpani rolls. We've got a very quiet, crescendo roll here. Again, accentuating this big moment, trying to help it land on every available layer, musical layer. And then another one here, just like the double bass is doing, right? accentuating the cadence and also predicting the cadence. So this is an interesting thought that you might take into your own writing or analysis, is events sound bigger and more important when they are wider in time. Because I'm taking the time with the timpani to anticipate this hit for 2 full beats, right? It sort of extends the time space that musical event occupies, and that makes, you know, like there's the landing itself here on the downbeat of 2, but because I've extended the anticipation with the timpani all the way back here, and then the trills react to it all the way back here, I've made the actual event really, really wide, and that helps sell it structurally. Let's listen to everything going on. We haven't done enough listening this time around. Talking about layering in, like writing in the diminuendo of special effects, you'll notice that the timpani roll only lasts these 2 beats, whereas the double bass accent lasts the whole bar. And then here, a little bit of a roll for the 1 beat, and then no roll here, helping that moment be a little more still. And if we zoom out again to the whole ensemble, I think we've covered everybody, so we can go back to the full page at this point. You can see that the melodic event lasts 3 beats and then a rest. The special effect roll here is lasting 2 beats. The accompaniment is the only thing lasting the full bar. So you've got each beat sort of a layered stepping down. We've got beat 1, everybody is playing. Beat 2, everyone is playing, but flute 2 has stopped trilling. Beat 3, the winds are still playing, but the and viola, excuse me, but the timpani roll has stopped. Beat 4, the melody players have stopped playing, but the accompaniment is still there. And then we're into the next bar where the melody has stopped again. So each beat of that bar, we've created a gradation of musical effect, which hopefully, I'd like to say it's really effective, but you could be the judge of that. That's about everything I wanted to talk about in this one today, I think. So let's give it a thorough listening to one more time. And then if you have any specific questions about concepts I talked about here or things that you're seeing in this page, please leave a comment below. Yeah, I'd love to talk to you about it. Let's play ourselves out. Nice. Oh, look, and Chopin's here. Chopin's here to play us out. Hey, buddy. Woo! This is a little tail. All right. Bye, everybody.